Hi everybody, and welcome back to Plastic Models by a Regular Dude and the Amusing Hobby 1/35 scale Shot Kal Part 2 Summary Edition. In the last episode, Part 1, I left off with Step 6, which was the tracks. So I put those together, and I have to say that I was really stoked with the way they worked out. So the way these things are set up, let me zoom in a little bit here. They come in a bag, loose already. As far as cleanup goes, there is very, very little cleanup to do. The only cleanup that I found, and see there, is right on this edge right here. It looks like where it was like a sprue gate or something, right there. Some of them had a little bit sticking off. A super quick swipe with the knife, and it was off. So then, as you can see right here, there's a little indentation there and there. On the other side of the track, you can see a little pin there and there. And the way it works, they just snap together that easily. And I have to say, yeah, now you have to be careful, because sometimes these little pins will break off and you'll get this. However, that's no big deal, because there's enough extras that you can repair it. And I didn't really have any trouble with it. That was an unusual occurrence there. But since it happened on screen, I guess it's a good thing, so you know what's going on. But I got them all put together, and it did not take long at all. The cleanup and the putting them on there, I think I wrote it down somewhere. Well, if I did, it's gone, so you'll just have to take my word for it. Didn't take long. So I took care of the tracks. Next was part 7, which is this phone box here, communications device box, whatever you want to call it, and various rear panel details. Everything, no problems, a little bit of cleanup. One thing I do recommend, though, don't do like I did and miss this right, where is it? Oh, right here. It says to fill in these holes on the back panel. That would be much easier before gluing all these parts on. So that's just something to think about if you build this kit. Everything else went fine. There was a couple of photo etch parts in here. I didn't do those. The box isn't open, so I didn't see the point in doing the handset and other detail inside. I just glued it on there. Done. You do have to remove a couple of raised locators here, obviously for a different version of the kit, and it was quite easy. I just used my chisel and just scraped it off. And the reason it has come off is because of these photo etch parts here. The photo etch, it's good photo etch. It's of a decent thickness, and the attachment points to the fret are super fine, so they're really easy to cut off and clean up. So I was able to cut all that off, no problems. Some more fittings. And yeah, that was it. So this is what it looks like with the parts glued in place. Looks really good. And I'll be using some metal primer on that before I do the rest of the regular primer. But went on there, no sweat, looks really good. Then we get up to step number 9, and we have some more photo etch parts here, and they look like this. I cut them off. I used a paintbrush, found a spot that looked about the right radius, bent it around, and they glued on. No problems with my Ammo by MIG black slow dry CA glue. So those went no problem. Hatches fit great. There is one thing that has to be cut off, and it's this filler cap right here, because it's replaced with this one here, which is further down on step 10. But all that stuff went together without any problems. And there's interior detail on the hatches, and if you were to have them open, it would look pretty good because there's no ejector pin marks or anything like that in there. One difference in this kit compared to some others is some modern kits come with clear parts for the periscope, so you can tape off the glass parts and then peel it off once you're done and you've painted everything. But I'm not going to have anything open, so no problems there. Now, there are 2 holes right here that came pre-molded on this thing. No, they didn't. I drilled those myself. So I'm going to have to plug those because I don't think anything goes there. Although, yeah, I just showed to do those 2. So I drilled those out for no reason. So I'm going to have to fill those in. And I'll show you how to do that later. But I can do that after this part's in place. Now, one thing that I did make a mistake on here in step 10, and that was the placement of this panel. And I'll talk about that in a second. So, in order of sequence, we have the back plate here, L3, and that gets 3 photo etch parts. Each the first photo etch part, Z3, just goes flat right here. Then Z2 overlaps that, and it's got kind of a double bend, so you can bend this part up enough to clear this, and then this part lays flat over top of that. Hopefully you can see that in the yeah, you should be able to see it okay. And then the same thing with this larger part here. It bends up and then flat to overlap there. And this is the way it looks. Now, there are nasty fingerprints and stuff on it, but I'll be cleaning all that up and priming it before I put on the main primer. But they fit. There's a couple of locator pins here, 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 and here. So they fit. You don't have to worry about lining them up. They just plop right into place. So that went fine. Then this panel here, again, it fit wonderfully, no problems. And I kind of like the fact that these are molded on. I mean, a lot of manufacturers do those as separate pieces. It's not really necessary. The detail's fine with these just being molded in place, but you know, that's my own opinion. But it all fit good. This fit good. So then we get to this front plate here. So I actually forgot to do it in this step, and I had to do it later. But the way this part fits is it's actually supposed to be sloped. I had it flat, and I couldn't understand why it didn't seem to be fitting just right, and that was because I wasn't putting it in there right. So I had it sitting flat like this, overlapping this first plate. This one's glued on afterwards, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but I had it sitting on top of there when in actuality it's supposed to fit underneath. And these here, I wondered why they were molded, you know, at an angle. Well, that's because they go in at an angle. So that is something to watch out for. Don't be a knothead and do it upside, or do it incorrectly like I did. So I'll have to glue that on here in a little bit, but I want to clean up some of the edges a little bit so it looks good after me putting cement and stuff on it. As you can see, I got that fixed. Quite easy, no problem, no sweat. All right, so that completes step 10. So with step 11 was this extra plate here. Now, it just says A, and that's it. And for a bit there, I was kind of confused, and I'm like, I don't see that part anywhere. Maybe they forgot the number, but I forgot that there was an extra bag of parts that you can see. I talk a little bit about in the intro video to this kit, or the inbox review, I should say. If you'd like to see that inbox, if you haven't seen it yet, I'll put a link up here. Hopefully it'll be up there. But anyway, but I wasn't sure if this, it didn't really behave like styrene, and it was kind of weird because it was really flexible and it was kind of warped. So I was able to flex it around and get it pretty flat, but I ended up using the black slow dry CA glue to glue it in place, and I kind of clamped it from the top before I glued this on incorrectly and held the bottom, and it's set up and it's all nice and flat. But that was that part. And then after I got that glued on, it was time to work on these two items here, which I believe are the man, I think they're exhausts, maybe. I'm not sure what exactly they are. I'll have to see. If anybody knows what this part is, there's one on each fender, and it goes up against the hull like this. If anybody knows, I wouldn't think that's the exhaust because the engine's way back there. I don't know what that is. So if anybody knows, please put in the comments section down below. I'd really be interested to find out. But anyway, I had to assemble those. Not much to talk about really there. There was some photo etch parts here that fit perfectly, no problems. And oh, one quick note on this part here, there are two locating points here that look kind of like that, or vertical. Those need to be shaved off, and I just used my chisel blade for that. Then I had to drill some holes on the fenders, and that was for, I had to drill them back here, and that was for all the Pioneer tools. And that finished step 11. Step 12 was assembling all of those parts onto the fender. Now, and this is one thing that I tend to do, is I don't look completely at the instructions, and that's why I glued this one top plate on incorrectly here. But there, you know, it shows assembly and stuff like that, but then down here it shows to scrape some detail off. So my suggestion to myself, hopefully to remember, and to you, is to look ahead and look for these types of things, because it's a lot easier to remove that stuff when other detail is not glued on. Less chance of breaking something off, and you can just do a cleaner job. But, you know, it worked out. But I knew it for the next time. These parts here, on this part here, B29 and B33 for the other side, there's a bit of detail right here that needs to be cut off and replaced with N6 and N5 depending on the side, and that is this part right here. So this part I had to trim a part off and put this in place, and it must be a marker light of some type. That's what it looks like, and there's some wire detail here that still works with the new part when you put it on. So that was that, and then it was a matter of gluing all of the Pioneer tools in place. Now, one thing to note, these holes, if you drill those holes as big as these things here, you're gonna have some decent sized holes, and the locating pins on these parts are ultra small. So I think they're just meant as a guideline, because it's not a real precise fit, so it takes a little bit of care when gluing those parts on. This part here, L17, I would suggest gluing that on after you glue this portion on here. That way you know where to put it, because it looks like it's supposed to fit right up against the edge of this part here. You can probably see it inside. And there's no locating pins or anything other than to keep this from being incorrect this way. This way you can slide it wherever you want, but there's nothing on the hull that is going to hinder the fit of that part, because it just fits flush up against the side when it comes time to glue that on there. So that was step 12. Then the last step I worked on in this segment, or this session, was the other fender. And basically it's the same exact thing as the other side here. It's just these parts have to be assembled on 12 and then put in place on 13. But again, it's virtually the same. It just has this in place of the Pioneer tools on this side, and then that bar there. So that is that. So that's all the way up to 13, and that's all the way up to what I've assembled so far. So in the next summary, I'll be starting with 14. Not sure how far I'll get. I want to attempt to get, and I'll probably do 14 through 17, which will finish off the hull parts before I work on the turret. So that concludes the part 2 summary video for the Amusing Hobby 1/35 scale Shot Kal. So if you like this video, please hit the like button. If you like the channel, if you like the content, hit the subscribe button so you can see more. If you want to see the actual full step-by-step of this build, where I go into detail over all of the parts, just click on the link at the end of the video, and you can check it out. So I think that's it. So as always, thanks for watching Plastic Models by a Regular Dude, and until next time, I will see you all later.